Dallas versus Fort Worth, the battle of the suburbs. Lace up your boxing gloves and let's get ready to rumble. Are you ready? Now, this won't be a docu-series or some kind of history channel of the different suburbs in and around our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. After all, there are almost 120 of those, and you and I both know you're not going to have the patience to let me go through the list of 120 suburbs, nor do I have the interest or desire. Hi, I'm Tracy Sorrell with the DFW Life, and I help people just like you navigate in and around our communities, cities, and suburbs. And what I do normally is drive around and give you a bird's eye view of how people move around in these areas. And if you like that VIP access, then subscribe below, press the bell. You'll be notified anytime anything goes down in and around our DFW Metroplex. And don't forget, give us a thumbs up. Now, back to the video. In this video, we're going to cover the things that are important to you and the things that I hear mostly from people who are looking to move in and around our DFW Metroplex, specifically the suburbs north of Dallas or north of Fort Worth. Before we tackle those places, let me give you a little backstory on the suburbs north of Dallas. So it started out with Plano. Plano, Texas is about 12 miles from downtown Dallas, and that was the hot place to be. You know, you have arrived if you lived in Plano. Now, just like any other city, the farther you go out, the newer the homes are. So people started moving farther away from Plano, then they jumped all the way to McKinney, Texas. One of the things that I really found interesting about the city of McKinney that you might find interesting too is agritourism, where you're able to go out to different farms, whether it's, you know, you're picking berries, you're picking fruits, vegetables, it could be a pumpkin farm. You are one with nature and you're going out there, you're part of the harvesting of some of these crops, you're picking things for yourself. So it's a great way to get the farming community and the consumer together. And if you enjoy, you've been looking for a place to pick strawberries or different things like that, you might want to check out McKinney for a variety of different agritourism sites for you to check out. Now let's take a look at one of the hottest suburbs north of Dallas, and that would be Frisco, Texas. Let me give you a perspective of the size of Frisco. There are about 232,000 people who call Frisco home. And as far as the Frisco Independent School District, there are nearly 67,000 students who go to school there. Now let's break this down in perspective, and we're gonna have a little fun and play a game, a multiple choice game of how many schools can you guess are in Frisco ISD? Well, let's just start with number one. How many elementary schools are in Frisco ISD? And here are your answer choices: 16, 43, 36, or 21. And I know what you're thinking, oh my gosh, Tracy, those are some large numbers to guess. Well, if you guessed 43, then you have guessed the right number of elementary schools in Frisco ISD. All right, question number two. How many high schools are in Frisco ISD? And here are your choices: 8, 4, 16, 12. If you guessed 12 high schools, then give yourself an A+. Well, there's a lot to do in Frisco. So let's just talk about some of the fun things that you can enjoy if you call Frisco home. Frisco is known as Sports City, USA. It's the host of the Dallas Stars hockey team. Their headquarters is there. Frisco is also where you're going to find Dallas Cowboys headquarters. And if you go to the Star, the restaurant, you can dine while you overlook the practice field. And that's a pretty cool experience to have. And if soccer is your sport, then FC Dallas headquarters is right there in Frisco. And of course, Frisco is home to the National Soccer Hall of Fame. And if you do like golf, and I'm sure many of you do, there is an incredible PGA golf course right there in the city of Frisco. Now, this is one that I thought was pretty interesting, is the National Video Game Museum. So whether you are a hardcore gamer, you are gaming 20 out of 24 hours a day, or maybe you're into more than nostalgic, just going down memory lane or playing old school Pac-Man, Centipede, Galaga, Pong. Well, this is the place for you. Oh, and did I remember to mention that Frisco has the Universal Kids Resort Park right there. So, I mean, that's a big pool too. There's so much growth in Frisco. It seems as though it's grown exponentially. It feels like overnight. We know that it's taken a little time, but it has exploded over there in Frisco, Texas. Now, with a lot of people showing up in one place, there are a couple of things that may, well, not be so comfortable for you. And one is, it's crowded. There are a lot of people. Frisco is busy. And now let's talk about where you can expect to live if you choose to call Frisco home. And for this purpose, when I go over home prices, I am looking specifically the city of Frisco and also Frisco ISD, because you can live in Frisco and actually attend McKinney School. On average, you can expect to pay $772,000 for your home. And of course, if there's an average, there's a high and a low. So the low end of Frisco, we're looking at about $486,000. And on the high end, $1.6 million. Next up, the city of Prosper. Prosper has about 43,000 people who call Prosper home. And Prosper is more of a bedroom community, and it is growing by leaps and bounds. Well, this is why. Frisco has kind of outpaced and outpriced some people. So just like any other community, people are moving farther away. And the farther away is only 8 miles from Frisco, and that is Prosper. So Prosper is known, I would describe as boutique. I would describe it as a bedroom community. You're not going to have a lot of things to do in the city of Prosper. You will probably drive that 8 miles to Frisco and enjoy some of the things that Frisco offers. And if you're considering Prosper as a place to call home, and you have children, then schools are important. Niche.com gives Prosper an A+ for their performance. In Prosper, there are 18 elementary schools and 4 high schools. So you can see that Prosper is a more manageable size community versus Frisco, where you have the 43 elementary school and the 12 high schools. So some people are migrating from Frisco and they're calling Prosper home. But Prosper is not inexpensive to live. Let's look at what it would cost you to have a nice home in Prosper, Texas. The average home price in Prosper, Texas over the past 90 days is $807,000. Now that's on average, high and low. So 512 on the low side and about 1.3 on the high side. In full transparency, because that's what you expect of me, if you want a newer community, a premier plan community where they have lakes and sports courts, multiple schools, I mean, it's just so inclusive, resort style life, then you're looking more toward that $1 million mark. And people love Prosper, and people will pay for what they love. Our next place up is Celina, Texas. And Celina, Texas has about 52,000 people. And the thing about Celina that many people like is that it's less expensive than Frisco or Prosper. So Celina is still very close to those two cities, but you are a little bit more remote and it's a little bit more rural, which is something that you might enjoy. As far as niche.com and the quality of education that your student may receive if you're in Celina, Niche.com gives it an A-. Celina is about 19 miles from Denton, and there's not a lot to do in Celina. You're going to go to school, you're going to enjoy maybe dinner somewhere at a local restaurant, you're going to go to Denton and really enjoy things. And you're there in Celina because you want a nice home, a newer home, a place where there's nice schools there, but it's affordable. And being so close to Prosper and Frisco, chances are if you don't go to Denton for entertainment, you're going to head to Frisco or you're going to head to Dallas. Celina, Texas has a low cost of living, around 17% lower than the national average. Oh, by the way, Celina has 4 elementary schools and 1 high school. So that gives you a nice perspective of the small community feel that you will have if you decide to live in Celina, Texas. And if you choose to live in Celina, this is what you can expect to pay for your home on average: a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, around $690,000. High and low, $420,000. and it can go all the way up to 1.3. And the 1.3 is probably a little rare in Celina, but it's there. So if you want something that's really luxurious on land, Celina might be the ticket for you, because not everybody wants to be in busy Frisco. I realize I did not cover every suburb north of Dallas. So if you live in Melissa, if you live in Little Am, if you live in one of those other suburbs, do us a favor, comment below and let us know what is unique about living in your community or your suburb, because who's better to share that than you? Now, moving about 30 miles west of Dallas, we're going to take a look at the suburbs north of Fort Worth. And let's begin with Southlake. Southlake can be easily described as the Beverly Hills of Texas. There's great shopping in Southlake, boutiques. There's a lot that you can do, explore, and enjoy in the city of Southlake. There are miles and miles of hiking, enjoying the ecosystem right there at Bob Jones Nature and Preserve. There's so much history in Southlake. It's easy to ignore it because people are so focused on the wealth and the shopping and the restaurants and the boutique. But I would recommend that you slow down and do a little search on the very rich history there in Southlake and the impact that so many diverse cultures that are responsible for creating the beautiful Southlake that you may enjoy today. Southlake is home to about 32,000 people. Southlake Carroll has about 8,400 students, 5 elementary schools, 2 high schools, and Niche.com gives Carroll ISD a grade of an A+. And if you decide to call Southlake home, well, let's just talk about how much you can expect to pay. On average, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home for Southlake is going to cost you a little bit over 1.2 million. And there's always a high and a low. So low in Southlake is about 842,000. And the high of Southlake, we're looking at about 2 million, 2.5 million. And Southlake is similar to other areas. It's just landlocked. I mean, we cannot produce more land. So if you want to enjoy that coveted zip code, that Southlake, then you're going to pay for it. Oh, and another thing about Southlake, you're not going to find it in apartment complexes. There's some wonderful townhomes, condos. They're going to cost you north of $1 million. Right next door to Southlake is the city of Keller. Keller is home to about 47,000 people. And as far as education, in case you have children who live with you, Niche.com gives Keller an A. Keller has 4 high schools and 25 elementary schools. Keller is it's beautiful, it's green, it's very lush. Keller has Bear Creek Park, which winds in and out of the different communities and neighborhoods. I mean, if you're an outdoor person, you're gonna see people walking and jogging around Keller parks, even the wide sidewalks up and down the streets of Keller. It seems like any time of the year, rain, sleet, snow, people are out there enjoying life in Keller. And if you decide to call Keller home, let's look at what you may pay for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. And I did this over the past 90 days to give you a really good perspective in Keller. On average, you can expect to pay about $790,000 for your home. On the low end, you're looking at about $415,000 for a home. And I would just tell you, if you can find a home that is around $415,000 in one of our neighborhoods in Keller, grab it. Just go ahead and buy it right now. And then on high side, you're looking at 1.4 million for your home in Keller. Keller, similar to Southlake and so many of our other areas, they're not building new communities. I mean, the communities are there, where the builder has bought, some acreage and they put some homes. But if you're looking for a premier planned community with multiple pools, sports complex, brand new home, you're not going to find that in Keller. So you can have a nice home, you can have a new home. You're going to pay for it to say you live in Keller. Let's go a little farther west to Haslet, Texas. Now, Haslet is going to feel really small compared to Southlake and Keller. Haslet is growing by leaps and bounds. About 4,500 people call Haslet home. And what is so attractive about Haslet is because overall it's more affordable. Even if you were to get a home with multiple acreage, it's going to typically be a lot more affordable than in Keller or certainly Southlake. There are newer premier planned communities in Haslet. Haslet, Texas is one of our most diverse areas as far as housing prices and options. So if you're thinking about making Haslet home, on average, you're looking at about $614,000. And of course, there's a high and a low. On the high side, about $1.2 million, and on the low, $335,000. Well, there's not a whole lot to do in Haslet, so you're going to hop in your car and visit some of the surrounding communities. You're going to head over to Southlake or Keller to get your shopping done, or you're going to head farther north to some of the other areas to shop and play. But the city of Haslet itself, there's not a lot to do other than enjoy your great home and your great schools. Speaking of schools, your students will attend Northwest Independent School District, where there are a total of 23 elementary schools and 3 high schools. Last but not least is Colleyville, Texas. Colleyville has to be one of the most picturesque suburbs north of Fort Worth. I mean, you just drive over the city limit and it's going to be like you've just transported yourself in a scene of a Hallmark movie. It is so beautiful. It's like, it's picturesque, and you're going to see beautiful estates on acreage. You can also get brand new construction in Colleyville, but just like the other suburbs, it's not going to be a huge master plan community, but there's so much you can do around Colleyville. But in Colleyville, there's not a lot that you're going to do, enjoy, and explore, and that's by design. So let's talk about where your student would attend school if you decide to live in Colleyville. Your student will go to Grapevine Colleyville ISD, and there are 2 high schools there. If you decide to purchase one of these homes in Colleyville, let's talk about what you can expect on average for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. On average, you're looking at about $900,000 for your home. High end, $1.5 million. And on the lower end, about $530,000 for your home. And no, I didn't cover Westlake, which I describe as a crown jewel of Texas. No, I did not cover Northlake or Argyle or Roanoke, Trophy Club. There's so many great suburbs north of Fort Worth. So this is where you come in. If you live in one of those suburbs, comment below. Let us know which suburb it is and what makes your area so unique, and why we should take another look at living there. If you're like most people, it's always nice to have a map to kind of give you a geographical feel for where things are located. So let's just start with the suburb north of Dallas, and we're going to begin with the very first one I mentioned was the city of Plano, which was the first one that people really wanted to flock to, and they felt like if you lived anywhere near 635 and Highway 75, then you have arrived. And of course, like many other major metropolitan cities, people started moving farther and farther away. So Plano is about 17 miles north of downtown Dallas. Moving farther up the road, or the highway, you will find McKinney, which is the second place that I mentioned that people were migrating toward. Remember, McKinney had the agritourism going on, where you can go and go to a number of farms and actually get to feel the land, the soil, and pick your crops. That's where McKinney is. And McKinney is a very nice place to live. But true to form, like any other major metropolitan area, people started creating suburbs of even these suburbs. And they moved a little bit farther west from Highway 75 to going over closer to 121. This is one of our other major thoroughfares that's going to get you to some of our suburbs north of Dallas. The city of Frisco is about 28 miles north of downtown Dallas. And remember, Frisco has suburbs around it, one of which is Prosper. And Prosper is only 8 miles from Frisco. And Prosper is where you're going to get beautiful homes and beautiful premier planned communities. You're going to pay for them, but they've got them. And they're only 8 miles from Frisco, which means you're going to hop in your car, you're from Prosper, and you're going to drive to Frisco and enjoy those headquarters for soccer, Dallas Cowboys, the Star, PGA Golf, all of the things that are going on and happening and hopping in Frisco. And remember, they'll go farther out than Prosper, and they head over to Celina, because Celina is a lot more affordable. It's a lot smaller, fewer things to do in Celina, but if you want to be in one of those nice suburbs north of Dallas without having to pay a huge price tag for your home, then Celina is that community, that suburb that we discussed, what might be a really good option for you. And Celina is about 6 miles from Prosper. So if you're living in Celina, you're just going to drive on in about 15 miles or so until you get to Frisco, and that's where you're going to have a lot of fun staying close to home. But let's say you feel a little adventurous and you decided, you know what, I'm going to branch out and I'm going to take a look at some more things. Then you might want to enjoy the lake life. Head over to Lake Louisville, which is only about 8 miles away from Frisco. So there are a lot of things that you can do, go and enjoy right around home. And of course, if you feel really adventurous, go ahead, head over to Dallas. Just don't forget, you're going to hit the toll road. So that means you're going to need toll passes, because it is a huge price to pay if you're on the Dallas side of our Metroplex, if you ride on our roads free. And if you're thinking about living your life in one of the suburbs north of Fort Worth, well, let's take a look at it on the map. And let's start with the city of Southlake. Southlake is about 27 miles from Fort Worth, and that's where you're going to have a plethora of activities to go and enjoy. Southlake is only about 3 miles from Keller. In fact, they share the same main street that runs through Keller through Southlake. And Colleyville is about 5 miles from Keller and Southlake. And with Keller, Southlake, and Colleyville, you're surrounded by excellent schools. You're surrounded by a nice diversity of homes. That is a really nice pocket to live. The farthermost suburb that we covered north of Fort Worth in this particular video was Haslet. And Haslet is only 10 miles or so from Keller, Southlake, or Colleyville. And Haslet is farther west, but that's what you like about living in Haslet. You like being a little farther away with a little bit more elbow room between the homes. In Haslet, you can still get a brand new home in a premier community, whereas you're not going to be able to get those in Keller, Colleyville, and Southlake. You can have a brand new home, but they're not going to have the multiple swimming pools and parks and the other things that you might be looking for, especially if you have a young family and you want them to get outside and go play rather than being in the house with you with electronics all day. Now, if you want to enjoy the lake life and you're living north of Fort Worth, well, Grapevine Lake is only 12 miles away from Southlake. Of course, it's a lot closer, but you have to drive to the area where you can park and get out and enjoy Grapevine Lake. And if you just feel like, oh my gosh, Tracy, I'm sorry, I just got to go to Frisco. Well, guess what? Frisco is only a short drive, about 30 miles from this area north of Fort Worth. But just as we've said about the areas north of Dallas, you are absolutely going to want to get a toll pass, because you're going to hit the toll road when you travel toward Dallas. And then when you get exhausted from all the fun of enjoying Dallas and those suburbs north of Dallas, because you might want to check out Frisco, they got a lot of cool things in Frisco. Then once you've exhausted, you're going to hop in the car and drive back over to the suburbs north of Fort Worth. Now, hopefully you've got a better understanding of what it's like to live in one of the suburbs north of Dallas or north of Fort Worth. And overall, Dallas is a little faster paced than the Fort Worth side of our DFW Metroplex. Now, you tell me, the winner of the Battle of the Burbs, the suburbs north of Dallas or the suburbs north of Fort Worth? Comment below and let me know. Hi, I'm Tracy Sorrell with the DFW Life, and I help people like you sell and buy homes in and around our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And hopefully in this video, you have a better perspective of the different suburbs north of Dallas or north of Fort Worth, so you can kind of get an idea of the things that you can do, the price ranges of homes, and the quality of education you can expect your students to gain by being in those different suburbs. If you are thinking about making a move to one of these areas or anywhere in our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, do me a favor, comment below, give me a call. Let's do a one-on-one consultation link. So go ahead and look in description, click that button. Let's schedule a time to do a one-on-one meeting so we can better determine which one of these areas is the best place for you to create your new memories and call home.